up, you guys? It's Kelly here with Summit Healthcare, bringing you another workout of the week. Today we're going to do a workout focused on relieving knee pain. We're going to be doing some stretches and strengthening exercises that are going to help address any knee pain that is directly related to inflexibility or lack of strength. Go ahead and pull up a chair and let's get ready for the workout. All right, you guys, welcome to the relieving knee pain workout we have today. So we're gonna start by sitting up nice and tall in your chair. And we're gonna begin with leg extensions. So we're gonna start by alternating from one leg to the other. So we're gonna start sitting in our chair nice and tall, pulling that belly in. And I'm simply going to straighten one leg, make sure I squeeze the quads, and release, and then I'm going to lift the other one, squeeze the quads, and release. Now I don't want to lock my knees out, I just want to feel a squeeze through the top of my thigh, and then lower that leg back down. Make sure to not be like swinging your leg here. We want it nice and controlled, stemming from the quads. You can even set your hand here to feel them working. Good. From here, we're going to do our seated quad stretch. So that works ideally with a chair without any arms. This is the stretch where we put one leg behind us and the other leg in front, and we're scooted over to the side of our chair just to really help open up the quads here. The quad muscles are the four muscles in our thigh that connect from the hip to our knee joints. So it's really important that when we work these, that we stretch them out as well. So we're just gonna hold for about 15 seconds each side. And there are some tricks to make the stretch just to get a deeper stretch. You can always raise an arm up, add a little rotation. Whatever works for you. Typically making the stretch active by squeezing that back glute is what's gonna help make that stretch deeper. So I'll have you scooch over to the other side. And I'm sure you can feel that pull in the quads already, probably because everyone's really tight there and doesn't stretch enough. Flexibility and strength are going to be the two things typically related to knee pain. The other thing is form, and that's how we properly exercise, right? So even just getting up and down from our chair, if we don't do that properly, our knees might be out of alignment, and that's going to put some unnecessary strain on them. So we're going to do our sit to stands, and we want to be scooted towards the front of our chair, feet hip distance apart, and we're going to lean forward, squeezing our glutes, and stand. Notice how my knees are not too far over my ankles, right? They're pretty close to being directly over them, if not just a little over the tops of the middle of the feet, but not passing the toes. So we're gonna do 10 of these, focusing on our knees. The other thing, besides how far or how close the knees are to consider, is if they're falling inward. If they're falling inward, this is going to put unnecessary strain on them as well. So we want them out with the feet, using our glutes to squeeze and help us stand up. If you are one of those whose knees are like inward, it's going to take you a lot of practice to get your knees to naturally want to come out where they're supposed to. So just be mindful of that and practice, practice, practice. Go ahead and stay standing for me after you finish your last rep. We're gonna go into alternating hamstring curls. This is where we are gonna use the back of the leg to bring that heel up towards our glutes, okay? So we're gonna lift that heel up towards the glute. You should feel this muscle get tight. That's your hamstring contracting and releasing. We really want to drive through those heels. Why might we want to strengthen the back of the leg when we're talking about our knees? Because there are also tendons and ligaments back here that we can injure if we don't have strong hamstrings. Hamstrings link to the glutes. We need all of those to be strong in order to protect our bodies. Once you get all of those hamstring curls in, some of us might be flexible enough to do a standing quad stretch. Now some of us might not be able to. That's why we can use resistance bands or a towel or anything to put over the ankle here and help us hold into that position. So if you need a towel or a band, make sure you have that nearby and utilize that. But this is a great stretch to be doing every single day. And if you can balance and hold, you want to hold about 15 to 20 seconds on each leg. Okay, and we want to make sure that those hips are square to the front, right? And that our knee ideally is pointed down. We don't want to be like this. That's not going to help stretch it. We want to be nice and open and help lengthen those quads. Another stretch that we can do is a standing lunge stretch. And that's when I am going to lengthen my stance here. As I bend that front knee, I'm keeping this back leg straight. I'm tucking those hips under, squeezing this glute, and now you should feel it most dominantly in this hip flexor, and that leads down to the quad. If you start to bend that back knee just a little bit more, that stretch starts to go downward. And you want to do about 15 seconds each leg. You can always play with your stance here to find the most effective stretch for you. Good. Now, those are some really key stretches for you to be doing to help alleviate knee pain. What we're going to do now is a couple of exercises, and by doing them properly, we're going to be able to help strengthen all the muscles that link to our knees. So we're going to start with the most basic exercise, being a squat. And as we already talked about, for our squat, we want our feet to be about hip distance apart, and we want our knees to be with the ankles, meaning they're not here, they're back here. And you can see that shift I made. So if naturally you think a squat is to come down, I want you to reach those hips back. See how now my knees are more in line where they're supposed to be. That's why we say reach those hips back like you're sitting in a chair, because that's what a squat is, right? We never want to bend like this because that puts too much strain on the knees. We want to use our hips because those are strong, and we do that by getting our hips back. So, knees in line with the ankles, meaning our hips are going back. We also say that so that way they're not buckling inward, also creating problems. We want them out with our feet, okay? So, let's go ahead and get into position, focusing on some of those things. We start by going with our hips back, 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 back. Squeeze our glutes and stand. Hopefully you can notice that your knees are in line where they're supposed to be. And if you have trouble, if your knees are buckling in, just focus on shifting them out with each rep. Good. After 10 reps, we're gonna go into lunges. Lunges typically can really hurt the knees, and I think that's just because we may be doing them wrong. So by doing lunges properly, you should feel everything mostly in your glutes. A stretch in the quads, working the glutes. So if I step forward into a lunge, right, I take that nice wide stance, that long stance, and now I'm gonna bend both knees with keeping in mind my hips just lower straight down, like a toast in a toaster. I just go down and come back up. Now how do I stay strong? I squeeze that back glute. It's not knees forward, because again, that's gonna hurt our front knee. Think about just going up and down, and we do that by just bending both knees and coming back up. Step back together, that's an added push part, right? It's taking that long stance, bending both knees, and pushing back up. If that all is a little too much, we break it down by getting into that long stance, and we'll just stay here and do lunges on these legs here. So we bend and straighten, squeezing this back glute. Bend and straighten. Make sure you're squeezing, otherwise you might hurt that knee. So it's very important to squeeze the correct muscles, strengthen the right things to protect the body. Okay, let's go ahead and switch. If you're not alternating, we're gonna go to the other leg now. If you're alternating, just finish up with a couple more. Again, we're squeezing this back glute here. Okay, squeezing this back glute, bending the knees and coming back up. Bending the knees, coming back up. And you don't have to go down very far. Only go down a little bit. All right, good. Let's shake those knees out, because I know with some of this new stuff, new form, you're probably thinking to yourself, Kelly, how is this helping? But it is, I promise, with combining these with the stretches and with all the stretches I know you do on your own at home, that's what's gonna help relieve knee pain overall. Next, we're gonna do a hip hinge, which is going to help strengthen our glutes and our hamstrings, okay? This is actually, you shouldn't feel anything in your knees. We get into our comfortable, strong stance, meaning our feet hip distance apart, soft bend in those knees. From here, I'm gonna squeeze my abs, squeeze my glutes as I lean those hips back, 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 back. All I'm doing is hinging like a washboard and coming right back up, okay? So I'm hinging. Should feel a nice stretch in my hamstrings. Then I'm gonna squeeze my glutes and stand up. So this exercise is really important for strengthening the posterior chain, which is the back of the body, right? Keeping our hips tucked, so we're strengthening the back, the glutes, and the hamstrings. And we're gonna do 10 reps here, slow and controlled. The best thing you can do when talking about strength, even when we're doing just body weight, is slow and controlled, because the longer you're activating that muscle, the more work it's doing, therefore the stronger it gets. Good. Once you have done 10 reps, I want you guys to take a little break, and then we're going to do another round of those 3 exercises. So we have the squat, the lunges, and the hip hinge. We're gonna do 10 reps of each. Okay, you guys, going down into our squat. I'm gonna be facing this way. Let's go this way. So you can see kind of like a side view here. So we're gonna go right away, 10 reps of each. Remember, slow, controlled, and thinking about form. So for our squat, knees out with the ankles, hips back. and then we're gonna go into our lunges here. So remember, you can do the alternating or stand in place for each leg. I'm gonna go alternating this time. So with the alternating, we wanna make sure that we're not still moving our body weight forward. We wanna control that, lower, squeeze, step back. Step, lower, squeeze, step back. And when I say squeeze, I mean that back glute. That's kind of what's controlling our motion here. Make sure those feet are pointed forward. Staying up nice and tall. Good, so we did 5 reps each side, and then we're gonna go into our hip hinge. So feet hip distance apart, soft bend in those knees. We wanna tuck those hips under and hinge, squeeze, and stand. Hinge, squeeze, and stand. Remember, slow and controlled here, because you want to make sure that every time you're getting a stretch in those hamstrings. Last one. Good, you guys. Go ahead and shake those legs out. Nice. So we're going to go right away, 10 reps of each. Remember, slow, controlled, and thinking about form. So for our squat, knees out with the ankles. Hips back. Good, and then we're gonna go into our lunges here. So remember, you can do the alternating or stand in place for each leg. I'm gonna go alternating this time. So with the alternating, we wanna make sure that we're not still moving our body weight forward. We wanna control that, lower, squeeze, step back. Step, lower, squeeze, step back. And when I say squeeze, I mean that back glute. That's kind of what's controlling our motion. Make sure those feet are pointed forward. Staying up nice and tall. Good, so we did 5 reps each side, and then we're gonna go into our hip hinge. So feet hip distance apart, soft bend in those knees. We wanna tuck those hips under and hinge, squeeze, and stand. Hinge, squeeze, and stand. Remember, slow and controlled here, because you want to make sure that every time you're getting a stretch in those hamstrings. Last one. Good, you guys. Go ahead and shake those legs out. Nice. So we're going to go right away, 10 reps of each. Remember, slow, controlled, and thinking about form. So for our squat, knees out with the ankles. Hips back. Good, and then we're gonna go into our lunges here. So remember, you can do the alternating or stand in place for each leg. I'm gonna go alternating this time. So with the alternating, we wanna make sure that we're not still moving our body weight forward. We wanna control that, lower, squeeze, step back. Step, lower, squeeze, step back. And when I say squeeze, I mean that back glute. That's kind of what's controlling our motion here. Make sure those feet are pointed forward. Staying up nice and tall. Good, so we did 5 reps each side, and then we're gonna go into our hip hinge. So feet hip distance apart, soft bend in those knees. We wanna tuck those hips under, and hinge, squeeze, and stand. Hinge, squeeze, and stand. Remember, slow and controlled here, because you want to make sure that every time you're getting a stretch in those hamstrings. Last one. Good, you guys. Go ahead and shake those legs out. Nice job today. Great job today, you guys. We did stretches and exercises to help us relieve knee pain. Remember that flexibility is super important to help kind of relieve the tight muscles from sitting all the time. That contributes to knee pain, as well as improper form. So we want to make sure that when we're getting up from our chairs, when we are actually exercising, that our knees are in that proper place in line. I think everything needs to be in line, right? Big toe with the ankle, with the knee, with the hip, everything needs to be in line. Never anything exaggerated inward or outward. Great job to you guys. Thanks for joining me for another workout here at Summit Healthcare. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.